In this lesson, we discuss how to deploy orchestration processes. After completing this lesson, you should be able to perform the following. You should be able to release and deploy an orchestration process within your environment. The graphic you see on the slide represents the entire lifecycle and functionality which is provided by the order-to-cash flow. Our current lesson discusses topics that are applicable to the orchestrated fulfillment step of the process cycle. The orchestration process deployment is one of many tasks that take part in enabling the orchestration of orders. As indicated by the graphic, orchestration also includes the following tasks: order promising, orchestration process definition, branching conditions, pause task and wait steps, status management, orchestration process planning and jeopardy, fulfillment line splits, change management, and hold management. Once ready, you'll release the orchestration process definition by selecting the release function from the actions menu. At that point, validation runs, and the release process will stop if any errors occur. Then you can use the messages that are returned to determine what you should try to fix. Then you'll repeat the process to try to validate and then release the process again. Once you have released the process successfully, then you'll deploy it to the associated source server by selecting the deploy action from the actions menu. This lesson includes a student practice for releasing and deploying the orchestration process definition that you created earlier. To summarize our lesson, you should now have understood how to release and deploy the orchestration processes within the application. And that concludes our session. In this practice, we'll release and deploy an orchestration process definition to the server so that it could be tested. This would be done in preparations so that you could test it before releasing it to your production cloud. To begin, we'll navigate to My Enterprise, then Setup and Maintenance. Ensuring that you're under the Order Management offering, we'll search for and open the task for Manage Orchestration Process Definitions. We'll select the task to open it. We'll search for the process that you've been working with. So the naming convention should be custom DOO_OU standard orders, followed by your student number. So I've entered partial value to hit search. And then you should find yours. So here's mine ending in my student number and initial. From here, you'll click Actions and Edit. We'll start by manually validating our orchestration process. We'll go to the Actions dropdown, choose Validate. You'll receive a confirmation that the process setup is being validated. Click OK. If any errors appear in your validation message, you can examine the setup directions from the previous lessons to correct the errors. Otherwise, you should notice next to your process name there's a gray check indicating that it's been validated. Next, we'll click the Actions dropdown again, and this time we're going to choose Release. As a note, when you release a process, the system will automatically run the validation action. Here, we did it manually. So now I'll click Release. The Download Generated Process dialog box appears. You could use this if you actually wanted to download a physical copy of the generated orchestration process. We don't need that for our activities, so we'll simply just X out of the window. Also note that the information dialog opened up, letting us know that the orchestration process was released. We can click OK to dismiss the window. Now we're ready to deploy the process to the server. To do that, we'll go back up to the Actions dropdown and then choose the option for Deploy Process. Note that that option would not be available unless we had successfully validated and released the process. So I'll click on Deploy Process. The dialog box window opens, showing you the scripted target host, port, username. You'll also need to supply the password. This is the same password that you've been using to log in with your assigned instructor or your student ID. So I'll put in our password. Then click the Deploy button. After a few moments, you should receive your confirmation message that your orchestration process was successfully deployed. Then click OK. Then, at the top of the page, you can click on Save and Close for your orchestration process. Now, you have successfully released and deployed an orchestration process